A big drive from 5 riders back. It's going to be a tie bomber. I think he'll do it. Goodness me, that'll be the photo. It's one Australian. Feel the rush as colours blur. Feel the rush and hear the bell. But he's done it. Wheels in motion. Hello everybody and welcome to Adelaide in South Australia, and this is now the start of the 2005 cycling season. For the last 7 years now, they've been starting their season in the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, a race which is based over 6 days and a little over 700 kilometres and bringing together 12 of the world's top teams. In all, 90 riders now setting off on a variety of courses, but they're all based here in the city of Adelaide. I'm Phil Liggett, joining alongside me here, Paul Sherwen, all set for another long season in the saddle, Paul. This has drawn, I think, one of the best fields it's ever had.
It certainly has. There's a lot of big names come down. I think the locals will be very interested to see the performances of Gilberto Simoni, the man who's won the Giro d'Italia on 2 occasions. I, however, think that he's here just to start off his campaign to try and win the Giro d'Italia for a 3rd time. The men that really will try and win this bike race are the local favourite, guys like Stuart O'Grady, who's won this event on 2 occasions previously, returning after a sabbatical. He would definitely like to win on home turf. But I think the man who most people expect to do very well is the newly crowned Australian champion, Robbie McEwen.
Well, Robbie McEwen is on fire at the moment, and he's certainly going to be the man to beat in the opening stage. We'll join the action now. It's stage 1 of 6. Not too far away from where we're standing, in fact, over in East Adelaide. There's a crowd approaching 75,000 waiting to see who takes out the first day. It's a 50-kilometre road race. Well, this is the short opener, if you like. It is the hors d'oeuvre. It's 50 kilometres rather, 25 laps times 2, a 2-kilometre circuit. And they're off. Michael Rogers sets them off nearest Camerman.
A world time trial champion on 2 occasions. I think we'll see a very fast race here this afternoon, because after all, there is the possibility of a group of riders lapping the field. Now, if that happens, there's a new rule being brought in this year. As we mentioned just a little bit earlier, 2 minutes for anybody who can lap the field. And of course, there's 6 seconds for the first rider to cross the finishing line. And Phil, in the event this year, there is a whole host of magnificent sprinters.
As you can see, as always here, the crowd packed the barriers for the whole of that 2 kilometres. Let's have a look at the route they now face. So this is the opening day of 6, the race starting and finishing in Rundle Road. And then they start to go out on what is a left-handed course as they make their way into East Terrace, and then a left turn along Bartled Road right down to the far side. It's all on open parkland, this right on the edge of this city, as we then get out of Bartled Road into the Ketville Terrace before we get down to the finishing straight in Rundle Road again. That's 1 lap. Total distance is 2 kilometres. We're going to cover it 25 times. First man back will be the first wearer of the Jacobs Creek yellow jersey. Now let's have a look at the teams here. This is the first page. Quick Step from Belgium, Crédit Agricole France, Liberty Seguros from Spain, Davita Malotto from Belgium, all Tour de France teams. The same to be said for Lampre from Italy, the AG2R team from France, regulars here, Française des Jeux from France itself, and the Cofidis team. That, by the way, is the team of Stuart O'Grady. And completing the 12, Navigators here for the 2nd year from USA, Panaria from Italy, and the 2 homemade Australians with great riders on, United Water and Uni SA.
You can see they've formed a group of 6 riders there, but everybody's looking over their shoulders. They're very worried about the fact that they don't want to outwit their team leaders here this afternoon, because if they lap the field, it would give a certain number of riders a 2-minute advantage, and that could almost be race over.
1, 2, 3, 6 riders trying to get clear, and a number of teams. Simon Guerin's taking them around the corner there for the French AG2R team. It's his big chance this year, young Simon. He's a rider from Victoria, but he's cracked it and he's on to the big team he's always tried to reach, and now he wants to show them he's worth his place. Driving at the moment, but a quick reaction from the field, and not surprisingly, most of the reaction coming from the Cofidis team of Stuart O'Grady.
Well, Stuart O'Grady racing on home turf. Let's not the first race on the open roads here around Adelaide. There is a serious split in the field there. A general slowing down at the front end of the peloton. It looked like Brett Lancaster in the orange jersey on the front. And he, I would say, is very happy with the composition of this leading group, which is now starting to form.
Well, Jans Koorts, who's been brought onto the Cofidis team, is the man on the front who's due to lead them out. And at this moment in time, Courts is trying to go for it as well. No, he isn't. He's dropped away from the front. But looking over there, it's Gene Bates who's taken it for Australia. I think Gene got it on the right. We'll have a look at that again if we can.
And that's a real acceleration there. You can see the lunge from the line from this angle. He certainly gets it. And you could see the gap over the front end of the main field.
Well, this is a good lead out for the finish here. 3 riders getting clear. They're all Australian, so they've stitched the sprints up tonight for sure. And it is Bates who's got it. And more points in the bank for Gene Bates. He'll be delighted with that. He's won them both tonight. He's still got to get up well in the sprint, I think, but he should have done enough to become the first leader of the SA Lottery sprint competition. And that's Nozal here of Spain who leads them through, followed by Matt White. Nozal was a big-time leader of the Tour of Spain a couple of years ago. He finished second in that race, losing it on the final weekend in the time trial. And there's been a massive pile-up here. A lot of riders are down. There's a De Vietemont rider clipped his head too. I think he'd be okay, but they're out of the sprint, and that's for sure.
Just have a look. It's a long way down the pack there. Somebody just got rammed from behind there. But as you can see, all of the main contenders managed to get through there safely.
As they're opening the sprint here, it's beginning by Lancaster, but Brownie went very wide. He'll have to recover from that one if he's going to feature. He has. He's now looking round. He sees he's got McEwen on his wheel, the one man he would not like to see locked in on him right now. This is going to be a desperate finish, and also Dimitri Dufour is trying to get in on the act. Now O'Grady launches an incredible attack as he lines up for the finish. Stuart O'Grady has flown away from the pack. McEwen is coming at a canter as he moves out on the outside, and Alan Davis as they come to the line now. McEwen hits the line. It's all a formality. McEwen, Alan Davis, and behind Stuart O'Grady. That was the order as I saw it over the line. Robbie McEwen has lived up to the big reputation he's built himself. He has just got his 4th win of the season, and it is only 18 days old. Just take a look at this. Normally O'Grady had done enough. He'd read it perfectly. Then came Alan Davis, the sprinter who's never won a stage of this race, and at this point he got it. But you don't know McEwen. He lunges for the line, inch perfect. McEwen, the champion of Australia, will wear yellow tomorrow, and gritting his teeth just behind him is Baden Cook, who won this stage in 2003. McEwen, Davis, and O'Grady's hung on for 3rd place, and it looks as though Baden Cook will go across the line in 4th.
When I saw my teammates working so hard at the front, I knew I had to do something to try and repay them, and I got myself in the right position at the end. I think just the few races I've done until now put me that half a step ahead of the Euros, and I was able to get up with a win, so it's nice to win the first stage. Pressure's right off the team now. We've got the leaders' jersey, but there's a long, long way to go in this tour.
Indeed there is, but mission accomplished there for Robin McEwen. He's now won 9 stages in history of this event, and that's 6 more than anybody else. There's the result as we saw it. Alan Davis getting 2nd, Stuart O'Grady in 3rd, and Baden Cook was the rider who came home in the 4th place. In the points competition, Gene Bates did enough out during the race with those 2 sprint wins to get 13 points. Robbie McEwen has come up into 2nd place with his win. He got 8 for that. Alan Davis lies 3rd in this competition with 6 points. They're the big sprinters.
So I suppose, as everybody expected, Robbie McEwen taking out stage 1 in a very closely timed sprint. He wears the first yellow jersey of this year's Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, and the riders move on to stage 2, 150 kilometres out on the open road from Salisbury to Tanunda.
Mike Turter on the right here, the organiser, talking with the organiser of the world's biggest bike race, the Tour de France. And I can tell you, Paul, he's well impressed with what he's seeing here in South Australia.
Jean-Marie Leblanc really enjoying his visit here to the Antipodes and having a lot of good things to say about the Tour Down Under and, of course, about the Australian riders too.
Well, the countdown again by Stuart Doyle and Jimmy Jakes, and they're underway. First time ever we've rolled away from Salisbury in the 7 years this race has gripped the imagination of the public of South Australia. Big cheers for the man on the front in yellow, and that is Robbie McEwen. He has now won 9 stages in the history of this race, and that is 6 more than anyone else. And a lovely crowd here. It's a shame we couldn't have stayed around longer. So the second stage then takes the riders away from Salisbury, 150 kilometres, as we head now via Gawler and on towards the finish in Tanunda. Once we get through Gawler, it's a pretty familiar route to those riders who come here on a frequent basis. Although a visit through Williamstown, there's a special sprint there. Then it gets a little bit of undulations as we begin to climb the mountains over Smith Hill onto Mount Pleasant for the final sprint. And then it's not downhill, but we tour through the Barossa Valley as we head through Angaston and Nurriupta and make our way through Greenock and down Seppelsfield and into the finish at Tanunda. Slightly downhill finish, high spot of 600 metres. And onto the open highway now, and a breakaway. Here it is, Delange, Mackenzie, Bodrogi and O'Loughlin, the champion of Ireland, just getting clear of the field, Paul. We're about 20 kilometres in.
A lot of riders will pay very much attention to these early breakaways this year because they remember what happened last year when on the first day on the open road, the race was almost done and dusted.
And a move coming here, and that is Russell Van Hout. Well, I didn't think we'd keep him in the pack too long.
You see, Phil, when you've got a gap of 5 minutes and 40 seconds, it's not really a very good tactical move to try and ride across. The 4 riders at the front, as you can see, are building up a massive advantage, 5:40. And poor old Russell Van Hout, I think, is going to get caught in the middle of the gap in what we call no man's land.
But this is a long way, 150 kilometres, and it looks as though Van Hout didn't get across the gap. He was trying, and he's actually, I think, seen common sense there, Paul, and waited for the pack. He wasn't going anywhere. Moving on into Williamstown now, 47 kilometres covered, first time bonus sprint, and this is a surprise. It is indeed, because Mackenzie didn't get up. It was, in fact, Michael Delage, the newcomer, and the youngest man in the race at 19. Just take a look around this corner, because this road just kicks. There it is. It kicks right up to the lines. It bears left. And that has caused Michael Delage. He's not afraid of the older men. He's not 20 years of age till August this year. He's the youngest man in the Tour. Mackenzie's giving it his best shot. I don't think he's going to get up there. And it is Delage who really fought that one out. He's even put his hand up to make sure the judges see him. But there's no doubt he's won the points.
I think we've got 2 teams at the front here forming an alliance to try and pull the 4-man breakaway back. They've reduced the 5.5-minute advantage to 1.5 minutes, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them kicking it up as we get a little bit closer now to the next sprint point of the day.
This is the breakaway. The man in green at the front. Twist of irony, because he rides on the team that Pseudo Grady actually did ride for when he won this race in 1999, Crédit Agricole from France. But there we are, we're heading up to the sprint now in Mount Pleasant, 85 kilometres to go. Delange is still having a go here, but this time I think David Mackenzie has worked it out. Shoulder to shoulder, the older man gets it on the line, so Mackenzie gets a valuable 3 seconds time bonus, and it is Michael Delange there, who this time, having won the first 2 prizes of the day, has to be content. This doesn't look good here. It looks as though Mackenzie has quite a stitch.
I think he might have actually just pulled something there. He's the oldest man in the breakaway at 30 years of age, but I think just then, as he lunged for the line, he might just have injured his stomach muscles a little bit, and that's what happens when you have to try and pull yourself inside out to try and get a sprint bonus win.
Here comes the peloton. 1 minute 25 is the official time gap as they come through Mount Pleasant.
This is Mackenzie. Mackenzie actually must have really injured himself then, because he was left behind by that leading group of 4. So there are now just 3 riders at the front end of the main field, holding on still precariously to a 1 minute and 20 seconds advantage.
And O'Loughlin also has now sat up. The breakaway is beginning to crumble. It doesn't look good. And these are the riders now, and they've all come together, and it was a breakaway which lasted 125 kilometres on today's stage of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, but it's going to be a sprint. And I'm surprised that nobody, Paul, has tried to get away from the front of this race, because surely they are now playing into the hand of the big sprinters.
Once you've laid yourself on the line for the team leader, get out of the way, get out of danger, and try and recuperate if you can over the last few hundred metres. At the front, a lot of risks will be being taken now by the sprinters. They'll be trying to get themselves into the ideal position, and the sprint is now opening up.
Well, they're starting to go for the line now, and we've still got a big mix of riders here. McEwen trying to get in on turns, but he's out of it at the moment, on third wheel, I think, as they come over the hill. As the police move out of the way now, McEwen coming on the left here. He's taking on Grillo, I think it is. On the line, McEwen has come off the wheel of Grillo, the Italian on the Panera team. He has come through for his 2nd win, the first time he's ever taken out the first 2 stages of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. He has now won 10 stages of this race in its history, and look how easy he makes it. It tips downhill just a little bit. McEwen comes over the top. Alan Davis will have to be content this time with 3rd, and he was 2nd last time out. Unbelievable that, a half a length victory for McEwen. An interesting sprint there by Paride Grillo. We would have expected Graham Brown, but in fact it was Grillo, his teammate, who took it out there for second. But McEwen, with 2 out of 2, has actually increased his overall lead. Let's have a word with him.
Well, Robbie, yesterday you told me you weren't feeling all that good and you came out with a win. How were the legs this afternoon?
I want to stop saying it, but I didn't feel great. But my team did so much work today because, you know, if we hadn't organised to ride, and also with a couple of guys from Cofidis and from Liberty Seguros, that could have been the tour riding away those few guys. We've seen it happen last year with Pat Yonka. Even though he's very strong and was dominant throughout the rest, you can really give the tour away in a break like that. So we decided to control, and I saw how much my boys have been riding on the front today and suffering themselves. So I had to do something at the finish, and I chose the right wheels, got through the gaps, and saw the finish at the right time. I think a few guys mistimed their sprint with that other arch across the road, and I got through, and it's nice winning. I love it.
He certainly does. 2 out of 2 for Robin McEwen so far, this time beating Grillo, Davis, O'Grady and Erik Putsep, taking the 5th place to AG2R. Overall, it means that McEwen now leads the race by 6 seconds over Alan Davis, 7 over Delage, who comes in at 3rd, and Mackenzie is now in at 4th, 7 back. In the SA Lotteries King Sprint Points competition, Robin McEwen has 18 and 12 on Gene Bates, while in the Loban and Pank King of the Mountains competition, Michael Delage is the first leader here, 16 points for him. Mackenzie was 2nd over the mountain, he's on 2nd, and McLaughlin on 3rd.
After taking the Australian national title just a week before the start of this race, Robbie McEwen certainly is on fire. Win number 2 in 2 days. But watch out for the other Australians, because Alan Davis and Stuart O'Grady are showing to be very consistent competitors. The riders move on to stage 3, a slightly shorter stage at 139 kilometres from Glenelg to Victor Harbour.
It's Robin McEwen a full house at the moment, 2 out of 2.
Robin McEwen very confident, very dominant, but I think all the riders today feel just a little bit worried about the change in the climatic conditions. Temperatures drop down about 12 degrees Celsius, but more important, I think, is the very strong winds that are buffeting in off the coast.
That's right, the riders will wind away in a southerly direction once they get clear of Glenelg. It's a 7 kilometres neutralised section today, and the riders must be aware of the tram lines. We've seen 1 or 2 spectators take a tumble arriving by bicycle this morning and being guided into the centre of those tram lines. Here the riders go out on towards the Southern Expressway, where the race itself will start. Mike Turter climbing back into the cockpit, getting the riders underway. They're now facing 139 kilometres, starting at the moment into the headwind, and we can now have a look at exactly where they're going today as they make the way from Glenelg to Victor Harbour. And not a particularly hilly stage, but we go due south, heading towards the first climb of the day, which is Selix Hill. We go over Selix Hill on the same main road, and it'll be a headwind up there as we then change direction. Then it'll become a crosswind as we head through Mount Compass, where there's a time bonus sprint, and then they'll continue on to Goolwa, where there's another time bonus sprint at 92 kilometres. Then we go back on ourselves, just skirt Victor Harbour, a circuit around before we return to Victor Harbour for the big finish. And straight away, Paul, attacks are coming. This looks like Inigo Charot of the AG2R team.
Not surprising. I think everybody realizes that Robbie McEwen doesn't want to assassinate his team over the next few days. They've been on the front of a lot over the last 2 days, controlling the tempo, making sure all of the breakaways are brought back into the fold. And at the back, there's a crash here. That's Graham Brown there on the left-hand side. And this was at the back end of the race here, and it was just a question of touching handlebars. And Brownie there, number 91, looks down like he's gone down quite hard.
29 kilometres at the moment, and the split has been on for a few kilometres. I'm not surprised, though, that the bunch does not want to let this group go, Paul, because there are some big names here, including Stuart O'Grady. A little bit of a panic right now. And 11 of them are in this breakaway with one or more riders. Some have got 4 riders here. And as we get on to Selleck's Hill at 44 kilometres to go, is Gene Bates coming clear. Bates gets the King of the Mountains points there, followed over the line by the man in black, David O'Loughlin, and third will be David McPartland. Those 3 riders are clear. Their lead 1 minute and 6 seconds. And this is bound to see a big battle here, and O'Grady's got a mix in it too. The gap is continuing to open, and you see McEwen now finding the weight of the maillot jaune, the race leader's yellow jersey, being left behind. Into Mount Compass now, and as we expected, it's a battle. The man breaking in, though, is the Italian, and the Italian rider, Grillo, just getting there. I think he may have got that. Let's have another look. Grillo in the orange jersey. Davis is the challenger. Big effort by Davis. A late lunge, but Grillo got it. Davis second and O'Grady third, Gene Bates there in 4th place. So that means, Paul, that the 3 seconds from Grillo, Davis is still the leader. Just Grillo closes in, and O'Grady stays up in 3rd.
The clock right now is tickling around about 10 minutes in arrears for this group, so I would say the race is over for these men. 11 teams represented in the front group of 26 riders. Nobody really now has got the heart to chase, and Robbie McEwen, I think, realizes the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under is down and out for him at all this year. There he is at the back of the group with his teammates. They realize they've had a very good start, dominated the first 2 days. Right now, it's all over.
Davis has his teammates Oren Kemps here, Javier Ramirez and Luis Sanchez, and they're working for him to try and take him to the line in 1st place. But here comes trouble again. A big battle here from the Italian. He's wobbling a little bit. Davis may have him this time. Oh, that was very, very close. It was a game between Grillo, Davis and O'Grady. O'Grady got 3rd, but I'm not too sure who got the valuable 3-second bonus. Can we tell here? A lunge at the line. I would give that to Davis, and so have the judges, so he gets the 3 seconds. Grillo gets 2, and Stuart O'Grady, 3rd again, gets 1. There are now 26 riders can win this race on Sunday, not just 2, because look at this. They're more interested in the stage win. The one that wins will be the next leader of the Tour.
The gap, though, is just down to 30 seconds. Looking back, the race referee there looking over his shoulder, probably a very nervous man, because there are a number of cars in that gap. Van Sommeren there in the back in the red and white jersey, 400 meters to go, very nervous. These 2 riders waiting for the twitch, waiting for the sound. The acceleration's coming, and it's coming from the Belgian.
But he's gone at some 300 meters out, and that, I think, is far too early by Johan Van Sommeren. It's a long way up this home straight. Once upon a time, Stuart O'Grady was the winner here, and he knows how far it is to the line. And look at that, with all of the ease, Luis Sanchez goes over the top. Van Sommeren is absolutely livid with himself, completely made a mess of that. But there is the man who's got his first win of the season, and indeed, the first ever Spanish cyclist to win a stage of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. And that is an excellent victory for him. Let's have a look at the angle here. He wins clearly, of course. Van Sommeren knew he was losing that way out. This is the race for 3rd place now. Only a few seconds, 16. That's all has gone by. Gene Bates, Robert McLaughlin and Javier Ramirez. That is the order over the line. In comes the next group, and they're coming in at just on 30 seconds behind, led over the line here by Laszlo Badrogi. And the big question is, of course, well, did Sanchez think it was a bit risky to go for the win so far from the finish? Well, the answer was, he says, I thought I would make a move and tire Stuart O'Grady out. It made the other teams work a bit, and eventually that's just the way it worked. I went out because Stuart O'Grady was always following Alan Davis.
Yeah, well, we felt
the whole team has felt good since the first start of the crit on Tuesday night. So, and today we tried to get in all the breakaways, and we were expecting a tough start to the stage, and that's what happened. And it's a full credit to the guys. They were in everything today, and it worked out well.
There's the stage result. Luis Sanchez, same time as Johan van Summeren, 16 seconds ahead of Gene Bates, who got the same time as Robin McLaughlin and Javier Ramirez. Overall, it's now Sanchez who becomes the Spanish leader of this race by 2 seconds. Alan Davis, his teammate, is third. Grillo sprinting well is fourth, and Stuart O'Grady still well there, 20 seconds off the lead in fifth place. In the SA Lottery Sprint competition, it's Alan Davis with 20 points. McEwen is second in this, along with Gene Bates. And in the Loban and Pan King of the Mountains, Gene Bates 20, same as David O'Loughlin. Bates takes the leader's jersey.
Well, we expected stage 3 to be difficult, but I don't think Robbie McEwen expected to lose 31 minutes and the overall classification. A new name popping up to the top now, Luis Leon Sanchez of Liberty Seguros. The riders now move on to a more difficult stage, stage 4, from Unley to Harndorf, with a very tough Checker Hill right in the middle.
As the race now prepares to roll away, all 92 riders signing on, Paul. They've got to watch the mood today, because this race so often decided by seconds.
Well, let's not forget, this is the longest stage of the race, 152 kilometres, and I think we can see a very fast start in hand for everybody, because there's a very long climb away from the starting line here. And the rumour on the starting line from most of the riders is 1 or 2 men are ready to go from the gun, as they say in cycling jargon.
Absolutely. All smiles as they leave Unley, this delightful little hamlet just outside of Adelaide. And the street party last night attracting once again thousands and thousands of people. And it looks as though 1 or 2 might have been rather late to bed. This is Johan van Summeren lying second in the race. Mike Turder getting ready to pull in the flag. He's actually told all the cars to give the riders room at the start. They expect attacks. Let's see where they're going. Here we are, as Paul has said, 152 kilometres, the longest stage of the race, and it's all familiar territory, this. We move away back into the Adelaide Hills from the old toll gate as we continue heading out towards the sprint at Echunga, then on towards Checker Hill, which is a real steep climb, and then keep on going as we go towards Woodside at 119 kilometres. We visit Harndorf twice in opposite directions before we actually come through for the finish.
You can see as they start the climb here, it looks as if 2 riders have already decided to light the blue touch paper and get away from the main field as quickly as possible. One of them is a former winner of the race, Mikel Astroloza. He's the taller rider in the front. These 2 riders, both Spanish, both on the same French AG2R team. The man in second place there is Inigo Charot, but you know what? They're not giving any free tickets at the moment. Charging off the top of the mountain, though, it's all very much back together as the riders now head down to the first sprint point of the day, and it's going to be very important here to see who gets across the line in first place.
Well, this is the charge into Echunga, which was home of the South Australian National Championships just the other day, won by Robin McEwen. Now it's a very different sprint, and coming through here is Grillo. Grillo taking it out. He's proving to be quite a sprinter, this man. He also gets a valuable 3 seconds bonus. But watch out here, Paul. Stuart O'Grady gets second. These are the leaders, and beginning to speed away, because the main field have assessed that none of these riders are going to gain half an hour today. But that because of the small time bonuses at the finish, this really isn't helping some of the riders like Stuart O'Grady and Gene Bates. There's a few local spectators there that shouldn't be that side of the fence.
1 kilometre away from the summit of the climb, and Baliani there, he's made the junction. We didn't see it happen, but we're now looking at 6 riders at the front of the group. That was a very fine effort by the Italian. He bridged a 40-second gap. Portal getting a slight advantage here, trying to get himself maximum points at the top here of Checker Hill.
Baliani, who's taken a few deep breaths and gone on the steepest part of the climb, is coming up in second position. Always a good crowd here. Checker Hill was on the very first route of the Tour Down Under back in 1999. And there is a big effort by Baliani. He is a good climber, we know that, and he's gone straight over the top of Portal. He will get the King of the Mountains on Checker Hill. Baliani, Portal second over the top. And a big round of applause there for the man in the orange jersey. Just see if we can see who goes through in third place. And in the distance there, I think I can tell you it's Matt White who's over in third. The main field at 3:40.
No passengers at all in this leading group of 6. Everybody working, everybody has got a lot to gain, and you just have a look at that. Almost 100 kilometers an hour on the descent. You can see the main field on the front end being controlled by the team of the leader, Liberty Seguros. They have actually no real reason, Phil, to chase down that leading group of 6. All of the riders in that 6-man breakaway were more than 31 minutes behind in yesterday's stage, so they can actually take a breather. And if Liberty Seguros was to ride on the front every day and chase every breakdown, they wouldn't have enough resources left to control the race towards the end. And let's not forget that this race is still only separated really by a few seconds. The second sprint point of the day, which is going to be pretty important for Robbie McEwen, but there's no challenge at all here as he goes across the line, gets himself 3 seconds, but for him, what's more important is the points in the points classification.
Yes, because that's given him the lead in the LA Lottery, in the SA Lottery sprint competition, which is what he wanted right now, because he gave away his yellow jersey yesterday as race leader. Now he's got the lottery sprint leadership, and one would expect him to win the stage too, and if he does, then he will increase his lead in that competition even more.
But Matty White, Phil, as you say, looking for his first win since 1999, and now he knows he's got it.
Now he's going to absolutely enjoy the moment. It's been a long time in coming. He's such a popular bike rider here. He's the rider who didn't make the Tour de France 2 hours before it was due to start. He crashed and broke his collarbone. This time, it is only good news for Matt White. Take all the time in the world to enjoy the moment. Look over your shoulder, see the sprint, and it's a traditional one. McEwen taking second. He would have won if White hadn't have escaped, but White did. McEwen gets second. He's coming right up behind him, and congratulations all round. That is a very, very nice gesture. And in third place is Sébastien Joly of the Crédit Agricole team from France, and Frédéric Finot, another Frenchman there, coming in fourth. Now this is the rest of the race coming in. Over 3.5 minutes have passed by, 3:42 in fact. Let's have a word with Matt.
Matty, that was a pretty hard start to the stage, but getting away in a move like that takes the pressure off your own teammate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You know, like Stewie, there was plenty of breaks today, but none of them are going to work with any of those 26 riders in. And I kept attacking and saw guys. You know, there's one guy who was in the group yesterday, and it's not going to work. And it was sort of funny. There was Robbie and Joly were away, and then 2 or 3 of us jumped across. And then once we got that little gap, you know, we know Liberty were rooted, and they had to let us go. You know, they'd be mad if they chased all day. They'd put themselves in the hurt box.
But what's interesting is it puts this victory, I think, puts a lot of your bad memories behind you, and you waited a long time for this one.
Hey, you're not telling me nothing. 6 years. I've won a few races here in Oz, but you know, international racing. Last race was Tour Swiss.
Well, it's all good now, Matthew. There he is, the winner today. 2 seconds ahead of Robbie McEwen. Same time then for Joly, Finot and Bagliani there in 5th place. Overall, the change is not really significant. Sanchez still has 2 seconds over Van Summeren. Grillo gets a couple of seconds time bonus. He's at 12. Looking further down in the lottery sprint points, McEwen gets the lead here now. 6 points ahead of Grillo in the King of the Mountains. Gene Bates keeps his jersey here, shares on points with O'Loughlin. Bagliani comes in third.
I think that was a very popular winner for everybody in the main field, because Matty White has been chasing a victory since 1999. But the leader at the top end of the overall classification, Sanchez, never at all put under pressure. The riders now move on to the 5th stage, a very difficult stage, and one which may be crucial for the men at the top end of the overall classification, the circuit race around Wollonga, with Wollonga Hill right at the very end, just 15 kilometres to go.
And there is the new man on the block, Sanchez, looking extremely confident, Paul.
He looks very confident, but I think most importantly, he's got a very strong team around him. And if he were to falter, there are a couple of other riders in the squad there who can take over. One of them is Australian teammate Alan Davis. These dark guys today, Phil, know that this is the crucial stage of the race.
Well, 90 left in the Tour from the 96 originals, and they're on their way now. They do 3 circuits around Aldinga Beach before we get on to the big climb. It's turning out to be a beautiful day, but the temperature's still down by South Australian standards. And yes, there's plenty of Italians supporting here.
What a magnificent crowd here, seeing the riders off on this 147-kilometre route.
And now we're heading out towards the beach route to start off the race. This is going to be, and as we expected, and we did expect this, the attack's coming right from the gun with Kevin de Wert. All right, where's he going? Well, there's the course for you, up to over 400 metres at the end, but before then, 3 circuits taking in the beautiful Aldinga Beach, where there'll be 2 time bonus sprints on 2 of the 3 laps there. Back through Wollonga each time, but on the end of the 3rd circuit, we go straight on. We climb the old Wollonga Hill to 400 metres, then plunge down at over 100 kilometres an hour back into town for the finish.
Well, last year the stage was very much like this as well. There was attack after attack on the opening flat circuits, and that is very good for the end of the race, because what will happen, it will really toughen up the event. This young man here, Gene Bates, the leader of the King of the Mountains classification, has been very aggressive since the start. He too is on the eve of a rendezvous with a very big performance if he can move up in the overall classification. He, with a good ride overall here, Phil, has a good chance of moving into a top European pro team.
And how's that for a view as they cheer the riders past, as they have done on many occasions here during the years of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. That's the scene for the big sprint as we move on along the coast here. Now this is the charge, and this time around it's a time bonus sprint. The boys in orange are trying to get Griot over the line first. McEwen wants to get involved because he's in this competition with the blue leader's jersey. He's on 3rd wheel behind the boys in orange. Now he's trying to come through, and look at this for speed. He may have made a mistake, but no, oh, they've almost collided there, Griot and McEwen, and again with Graham Brown, but he's through, and he's going to take this, McEwen. He gets the points. He is not very happy about that.
He's not very happy at all about that. First of all, he was in the breakaway. He was chased down by the Panaria riders, but just look at that little move there. Robbie is such an agile bike rider. He manages to avoid one incident, then a second, and the anger accelerates him and propulses him to the line. But Robbie's got such incredible form at the start of this season. Let's not forget he won the Australian national titles just a week before this event. Well, I have a feeling Robbie may be just a little bit worried about the final climb of the day and wondering whether or not he's going to be able to get himself over that, which is why he's really tried hard out on the open road.
These are 3 riders have got themselves to the front now, and another attack is being launched. In fact, I've got a feeling this is Contador who's come up here, all on the same team. There's about 4 or 5 riders here from Liberty Seguros, and 3 of them trying to push on, and he's picked up his team captain. He's trying to pace him to the top. Hats off to Van Summeren. He's not a climber of note, and he's just hanging on to the coattails of the race leader. They are separated after 5 days by just 2 seconds, and a marvellous crowd on the climb here as we head up towards the summit. It is going to be at the King of the Mountains points for those 3 riders, and it is Contador who gets them. He sprints well clear, and over the top behind will have come Van Summeren and the race leader himself.
Well, this is a very fine move, but I think tactically what he needs to do now is wait for his leader, the man who's wearing the yellow jersey, because those 2 men together can put a serious amount of pressure on that small group. It's a 6-man group there containing Stuart O'Grady and Alan Davis. But the yellow jersey hasn't given up. In fact, he's looked over his shoulder and seen that these men just behind him are not chasing down the gap, and he's decided to carry on and see if he can join Contador, and he has done. These 2 men aren't worried at all. It doesn't matter which one of them crosses the line in first place, because the victory goes to the team. The team has been dominant here this afternoon. Liberty Seguros started the day in the yellow jersey, and they are really consolidating here.
Well, they just keep checking over their shoulders. They won't know that the team captain, Alan Davis, is chasing. And now they keep looking and waiting. I think they might know.
I tell you what, I have a feeling. You look at Contador there, he's really suffering. He's pulled everything inside out. I think they're having a bit of a chat here, trying to stay together. You know what? I've just remembered that Contador in 2nd place there, Phil, had a very nasty accident just about 12 months ago in the Vuelta a Asturias in Spain. He actually had an aneurysm in the race, blacked out and crashed, and very, very dramatically was taken off to hospital. The same thing happened about 15 days later. He's come back from serious injury and illness, and that's probably the first time he's raced, I think, in that length of time. But look at this. This is congratulations. Thanks a lot for a great job done.
And this is the yellow jersey of the Tour Down Under, indicating that it's his teammate who should be getting the applause as they come to the line. It's his teammate who made the attack that brought the yellow jersey to the front. And in fact, Luis Sanchez is going to allow his teammate now, Alberto Contador, to take his first ever road racing victory. Well, this is something we've never seen in this race in its 7-year history, and we're going to see a 1-2-3 from the same team as well. Davis is on his way. Contador takes the stage win. Sanchez consolidates his yellow jersey situation. Now let's see if we can see Alan Davis coming up down the road.
But this has been a fabulous move by the man in the yellow jersey. There's Davis. He's lost a few seconds as he comes up to the line. They're around about 22, but this is going to really make it very dominant. In fact, it looks as if Liberty Seguros got 4th as well.
That's right, Ramirez has got a 1-2-3-4. Well, Luis Sanchez, the race leader of the Tour, I reckon, you know, he can relax just a little bit now. Well, that's true. A little less pressure, he's saying, but the fact is we have one of the best sprinters in the world in Alan Davis.
Well, Alan, everyone was talking about the challenge coming to Liberty Seguros, but I think today you answered all those questions.
Yeah, that's pretty much how we plan the day, to keep it controlled and up the climb, you know, just attack and sort of see who can go with us. And those two young guys up the front, they're showing how much talent they've got, and they attacked at the top of the climb, and there was a lot of guys swapping off at the back, and myself and Javier Ramirez, we just had to just control the chase group and, you know, just race tactics, and that's how it panned out. Great for the team.
Incredible for the team. Look at that, all of them from the same team in the first 4 places. And then David McPartland, the circuit race champion of Australia, he came home in 5th place for United Water. Overall, Sanchez moves out now from 2 seconds to 35 seconds in the lead, but he's ahead of his own teammate now, Alan Davis. So Grady comes into 3rd. Van Summeren just drops down into 4th. In the sprint points competition, McEwen increases his lead over Alan Davis here. And in the King of the Mountains, no change at all amongst the top 3. Bates and O'Loughlin still locked together on 20, and there's 2 mountain points to be gained tomorrow.
If anybody had any questions about the supremacy of Liberty Seguros, I think they were answered on stage 5. A great performance by the overall leader, Sanchez, extending his lead in the overall race, but a nice, I think, emotional win for his teammate Alberto Contador, coming back from that very dramatic illness. At the end of the day, the riders then rolled down into Adelaide for the final stage, stage 6, right around the very heart of the city. It should be a promenade, a day for the riders to show off their jerseys. But you know, racing in the city centres is always very difficult.
88 survivors of the 96 starters in this year's Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, but one man under a bit of pressure, my co-commentator Phil Liggett, who's having a little bit of a problem with his throat. So all of the riders moving away now, starting very quickly off the front there. Michael Rogers in the black jersey as yesterday's most aggressive rider, and I think he'll be looking to try and get himself the victory in the latter part of this race if he can. He's the kind of rider who would really try and get himself off the front and surprise the sprinters. But there's a lot of very good sprinters in this race. McEwen obviously looking for the win. Baden Cook, Stuart O'Grady, Alan Davis, Graham Brown, all men who are very used to winning final stages of stage races just like this one. As you can see, we're off to a very fast start. These guys are going to rip around this 81-kilometre route right in the very heart of Adelaide City. And of course, it was basically based around King William Road. Expect high speeds, pretty much up around 50 kilometres an hour as the riders charge away from the starting line here at King William Road and make their way down the other side across the River Torrens and then head up the very difficult Montefiore Road as they go around the Adelaide Oval. Once again, they go around the University Oval, head back down to the river again, and then on the final turn, it's up for the last 450 metres, slightly uphill towards the finish line. And it's a magnificent day here in Adelaide for the final day of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. And as we can see, already a small breakaway, just forcing an advantage over the front end of the main field. And I should think this will be the scenario for the majority of this stage here this afternoon. It's the dark blue jerseys of Liberty Seguros all the way around and protecting their leader in the yellow jersey, Luis Leon Sanchez, just 21 years of age. We've pulled the breakaways in. It looks like, if we can see just coming down the outside, there's Robbie McEwen in the blue. Coming up through the middle, there's Stuart O'Grady in the white jersey. But look at that on the line. Thank you very much. Sprint number 1 goes to Robbie McEwen, who extends his advantage there in the SA Lottery sprint competition. And again, a small move going off the front. We've now covered 9 laps of 18 here, and this is a former winner of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, Mikel Astrolosa. He hasn't actually won another race in his career, though, but they're not getting very far. Look at that. Here's the main field, charging up the finishing straights at half distance, and I should think in a few moments' time it will be all back together. The complete peloton charging around this city circuit. Russell Van Houten, but we can now see the formation of a 4-man group at the top. That's Baliani from Panaria, teammate of Graham Brown, just making the junction as we go off to start Montefiore Road, and this time it will count for the King of the Mountains classification. But the main field, as you can see, is really not that very far behind. And there at the front end of the group, you just caught a glimpse of the jersey of the King of the Mountains leader, Gene Bates, being led around the corner there by one of his teammates. Right on his wheel there, you can see one of the riders from Navigators, but in 4th position, that's David O'Loughlin, the Irish national champion. A big opening up here of the acceleration by the Navigators, and I think they've caught Bates off guard. Bates, no, he hasn't. He's been recovering there. He's got back into the wheel of the Irish champion, and now he's going to open up his sprint. He needs to get across the line in front of the Irishman here if he's going to get himself the lead. As they go around the corner, look at the gap he's got. Gene Bates, 24 years of age, big acceleration, gets the maximum points there. That will put him into the lead, but there's one more sprint to go. But it looked to me if there was a little error there as we came up to the line, because the Navigators rider should have braked a little bit, and O'Loughlin actually went across the road in 3rd place. Betts and Cunningham still holding on to a fairly sensible advantage, hovering around about the 30-second mark as the main field just cruises around not too far away from the River Torrens in the very heart of Adelaide. But I really don't believe that they're going to survive all the way to the finish, because there's some very big sprinters in the race this afternoon who would like to see the whole of this race come back together. And in fact, you can see there is no real challenge here for the sprint at all, because it looks to me as if Dave Betts is going to take it very comfortably. He'll be the first man to cross the line. No challenge at all coming from Cunningham. And that's actually a very sensible thing to do, because these two riders need to share the pacemaking as they head down towards the finish. Well, it looks as if there's been a little bit of an incident here, because somebody has disappeared away from the leading group. This is Dave Betts, and I do believe that Steve Cunningham has had a mechanical incident, because all of a sudden he disappeared from the front of the bike race. It will be a bit of a negative, I think, the loss of Steve Cunningham there. And although we didn't see it, we are really hearing that, in fact, what happened to him was he had a front wheel puncture, a fairly slow change, and he will very shortly be dragged back into the main field. And as you can see, the main field are boring down upon him. This is going to be very difficult for him to survive, because he's got about 2.5 kilometers, I think, to the summit of the climb. That's the team of David O'Loughlin. He's in 2nd place at the moment, separated only by 8 seconds. The man leading them round, Nathan O'Neill, the Australian time trial champion, the overall leader, the man who started this day in the yellow jersey with a 35-second advantage over his own teammate, Alan Davis, is starting to look a lot more relaxed and comfortable as we head down towards the finishing line. As these laps tick by, he gets just that little bit more confident, knowing that his first big overall victory in a stage race is almost at hand. That's a bad sign. When you see the race referee's car being pushed out of a gap like that, you know as a bike rider that the gap has come inside of 30 seconds, and you know it's coming down very rapidly. Can Betts survive to the summit of the climb here? He's going to start to climb Montefiore Hill, and no, I don't think he will, because here's the main field, led by the Navigators. There is O'Loughlin in 4th position. He really needs to try and get this in 6th position, though. There is Gene Bates. Bates' teammates looking after him, swinging across the left-hand side of the road. Bates is trying to hold on here, but it's going to be very, very difficult. Well, in fact, he's been swept up. Look at this big acceleration here. There you can see just on the right-hand side is Bates, but the big sprint is going to be between the two men at the top of this competition. Gene Bates is coming round, hugging the corner, getting as close to the barriers as possible as they come into the last 50 metres. It's Bates ahead of O'Loughlin, and that means that Gene Bates is going to be the winner of the King of the Mountains classification to add to his 2 under-23 titles. Only 24 years of age right now, but I tell you what, this man is turning out to be a very aggressive bike rider in the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. You never see Robbie McEwen in a sprint like this up until the very last moment, and that's the important thing about being a sprinter. But it's Matty White all over the front of this bike race now, keeping the pace nice and high. He wants to make sure that Stuart O'Grady doesn't get swamped. There's O'Grady. They're up now towards the finishing straight, taking the final bend of the race, and you can see now the acceleration is starting to get opened. FDJ.com still accelerating in the front. Stuart O'Grady now goes right the way through the middle. It looks as if O'Grady's got the jump on everybody here, but look on the left-hand side in the blue, that's Robbie McEwen coming up towards the line. McEwen is the one who lunges, and McEwen is the one who gets win number 3 here. He won the first 2 stages, Robbie McEwen, and now he's taken out the last one. That makes this his 11th stage victory at the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under over the years. What an amazing performance by Robbie McEwen. He timed it to perfection, and once again I'm absolutely certain he's going to say a very big thank you to his teammates, because they did a superb job of pulling it all back together. The man who was second across the line was Paris de Griot, and Alan Davis had to settle up for 3rd place. But the winner is absolutely and certainly Robbie McEwen. The man from Queensland really is fast.
Robbie, absolutely fantastic. You love the final sprints, and you've done it again here on the final stage in Adelaide.
Yes, no, I love a sprint. I love a final sprint, and I love the last stage in Adelaide. It's a course that I really love. The crowd's fantastic. My teammates worked really hard, and I love being able to repay them. It's just great.
A wonderful finish, a wonderful result. Did you come to Adelaide thinking you could win?
Buena carrera, buen resultado. ¿Has venido a Adelaide pensando que podrías ganar?
No, la verdad que había preparado muy bien el invierno, pero con cara a París-Niza, la verdad que ha salido bastante bien.
I had a great winter, getting ready for this race. I was basically getting ready for the races a bit further on through the year, and I didn't really come here with high expectations, but not for the win.
Certainly a great win, though, for Robbie McEwen. Win number 3 at the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, just ahead of Paris de Guerillo and Alan Davis getting 3rd. Stuart O'Grady tried, but ended up in 5th place. At the top end of the overall classification, not really any changes on the last day. Luis Sanchez, 33 seconds ahead of his teammate Alan Davis, and the local boy Stuart O'Grady in 3rd. Robbie McEwen did win the sprints competition as well, sponsored by SA Lotteries, ahead of Paris de Griot. And the King of the Mountains, Gene Bates, just ahead of David O'Loughlin after a battle that went right down to the very last day. The yellow jersey, well, this is a name we'll hear over the next couple of years, I'm absolutely certain. Luis Leon Sanchez of Liberty Seguros has won the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, and I think we'll see him win on a number of occasions later on during the season as well.
Well, I'm pretty sure celebrations will go on into the night, especially for the Spanish Liberty Seguros team, because they did come here and they certainly conquered. They were a brilliant team, and they found an extraordinarily good winner in the young rider, Luis Sanchez. Paul, that was a name we never even thought of.
Well, we hadn't thought about it, but the team certainly had, because before the start of this race, they thought that he had a very good chance of winning the bike race overall. And I think we'll have to follow his progress over the next couple of years. It was also good to see Alberto Contador coming back after a very nasty accident last year to get himself a victory. And of course, as always at the Jacobs Creek Down Under, the Aussies were phenomenal. We saw Robbie McEwen out on the course doing some great sprints in his new Australian National Champions jersey. Got a bit of an Australian wave going here, but as well, Stuart O'Grady, always consistent, great to see. And what about Gene Bates? A chance for him maybe to get onto a top professional team.
Well, we'd like to think so. Gene Bates has always ridden well in this race, and he always rides well. He's been a bit unlucky so far, not finding his place on the top team. Australian cycling, as you can see, is in a very, very healthy state, supplying 40 professionals into the European market now over the next 12 months. But watch out for the new man on the block. He'll never forget his first visit to Australia. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage. From Paul Sherwen, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye.